Chapter 14. What will these people come to? Torrents of water from the melting glacier formed a large river. Its raging current swept up rocks and fallen trees as it went. It washed off and carried away the fertile topsoil, along with the vegetation and everything living in it. But the family valley that people had been forced to abandon was left untouched by the fearsome stream. The foliage on the trees in the valley yellowed and fell off, and there was no singing of birds to be heard. But some number of the plants continued fighting for their lives, adapting to the cooling that was unusual for these parts. And amazingly enough, Anasta's favorite flower still remained in her once very lovely flower bed. The valley was shielded by the ridge of mountains, atop one of which the little girl Anasta had fallen into a sleep that would last thousands of years. Two athletic youths, one light-haired and one dark-haired, stood at the foot of the mountain. They were looking at a huge block of granite that extended out over the ground. Drops of water were forcing their way along both sides. The dark-haired youth spoke with a joyful Schadenfreude, Schadenfreude. That's what they get, these people who have lost their sense. Little by little, sometime in the next 2 days, the water will gradually wash away the support around the rock, and it will collapse, opening up a path for the death-dealing torrent to make its way into the valley. The water will rush like a powerful waterfall, tearing off and carrying the mountain rocks away with it. Little by little, it will erode the entire mountain and carry it away. Once the torrent that is coming on the right of the mountain has thrown this giant rock aside, it will rush into the crevice that forms, making it larger and larger, and it will change direction. Yes, if this block collapses in the next 2 days before the torrent reaches the sloping lands beyond the valley and floods it, thereby lessening the water pressure, then it will rush with all its strength into Anastaska's family's valley. The light-haired youth agreed, and he added, "Now I regret having taken form in a human body. Right now we need an animal with a powerful body to prop up this block." Ha ha, he regrets he's not a powerful animal. Sure, you have adopted its appearance, but then you would have had to resemble it too. You wouldn't have been able to speak like a human and realize that the block would soon be carried away by the torrent. Yep, what are you jabbering on about with your family valley and your Anastoshka? It's all the same to her now. Her soul is soaring in the immense universe. Soaring, yes, Light-haired said, thoughtfully and tenderly. The thought has been carefully preserved in it, and the dream. Awareness, great knowledge. All the same, she really did manage to stop the glacier. The daughter of God grasped the power of human thought through her feelings. She altered God's plan a tiny bit. Exactly, a tiny bit. And how much slobbery tenderness is there in your words? Just a tiny bit, I might add. A tiny bit. And you. She grasped it through her feelings, and daughter of God, dark-haired said, mockingly mimicking him. Speaking with abandon, he went on. The raging torrent will rush into the valley anyways. It's rushing after the crowd of idiots who don't even suspect that they themselves, and their thoughts and actions that drew them away from the natural and toward the artificial, are the cause of the disaster. For now, their aspirations are still in the beginning stages, but we know how destructive these aspirations are for them, and for the earth, and for the whole universe. And so that they don't suffer, and so that they don't tear the surface of the earth to bits, they will be destroyed, in accord with God's program, at the very beginning stages of the disastrous aspiration. The raging torrent will overcome them. A huge roaring tidal wave of water, rocks, Fallen tree trunks and corpses of the formerly living will make its way unforgivingly toward them. At first, when they hear the rumbling behind them, they'll feel something is wrong and they'll pick up their pace. But the rumbling will grow, and off in the distance they'll see a huge wall moving toward them, bringing death. For them it will signify the flood. They will all be gripped by terror, their mammoth elephants, their kittens, their children, and their old folk. And their souls will fly up into the universe, retaining within them only the horrors. With a kind of venomous passion, Dark-Haired began using facial expressions and gestures to portray these people who had been gripped by terror, mothers pressing their infants to their breast, people who had knelt down with their hands stretched out to the heavens, feverishly praying for mercy, others running with their last ounce of strength and shouting. Dark-Haired began running around in a circle, wailing, showing terror on his face, and then he stopped, glancing in the direction of the people who were leaving, and said, "My pale-faced brother, do you get it? Do you get what kind of unavoidable destiny will overcome these people?" And so, that little girlie asleep on the mountain did not change God's program in any substantial way. The way that you have modeled the human future is not to my liking, brother. We, the universal entities, can probably take some action. It is not our business to remain indifferent. When we are indifferent, then we do not exist. What does the future care about your to my liking or not to my liking, if it's unavoidable? The dark-haired sneered. Without waiting to hear his brother's answer, he turned sharply and saw. His light-haired brother had gone to stand beneath the granite block, and all on his own with his shoulders and arms propped it up. The stream of water flowing along the edges of the block became significantly smaller. "Idiotic, senseless, and irrational," Dark-Haired said after a brief pause. Then he was silent a bit longer, as if deliberating about something, and then he began shaming his brother with newfound strength, attempting to prove the senselessness of his actions. "There is no one here, and thus there is no one to laugh at your total idiocy. Before you went to stand under that granite block, you didn't even take the time to calculate how much it weighs. The water is still oozing through, and the supports holding the granite up are eroding, and that means more and more weight will be pressing down on you. Do you understand that, you pale-faced idiot? By force of my will, I will condense to the density of the granite, and I will be able to hold my ground. I only need to hold out for 2 days. I will hold out," said the light-haired athlete. "Right, I'll hold out. I'll condense." "Well, go on then. Condense away. To the density of the granite. But what's your load-bearing surface area? Your load-bearing surface area is the size of the soles of your own 2 feet. And along toward the middle of the second day, the whole burden will come to rest upon you, and you'll sink into the ground like some kind of granite stake, shoving the smaller rubble off to the sides. As soon as you sink in up to your knees, the torrent of water will shove the block aside. I'll straighten my arms out. Then I'll be able to hold out half a day more." Yes, of course, you'll hold out. Only not for half a day. You'll hold out maybe for an hour or more, you clueless blockhead. And then there will be a landslide. For all of eternity, since the moment of creation, never once has God's program experienced a glitch, and I am in agreement with it. Given that mankind is stepping onto an absurd path of development, it is better to put them down at the beginning of their path. Maybe a new civilization on Earth will comprehend its life's purpose, and then we will comprehend. The universe will see new deeds, not today's primitivism. Numerous times the Earth has experienced disasters that have washed away the filth that man has accumulated. Who is it that you want to save? Mankind? which with its very own hands will, in the future, create a living hell for itself and for everything living on the earth, do I need to remind you where the technocratic path will drag them off into the future? Drag them off to in the future? Should I remind you? Why don't you say something? Oh, excellent. You're condensing and petrifying. Are you already having a hard time talking? Don't talk then. Excellent. Stand there like a stone idol and look. Look at the pictures of the future life of the people that you are trying to save. I've always admired them. There's the most unenlightened folly, absurdity, and vanity in them. But you don't like looking at them, these pictures. Go on and look now, my pale-faced, petrifying, motionless one. Look. But no, first listen and hear what you do not want to hear. If those who have left the valley aren't destroyed, they will follow their technocratic path. They will multiply, and from one generation to the next, they'll break and destroy and remold the great earthly harmony. And they'll kill animals who are meant to serve them. They'll construct a multitude of various soulless devices out of completely living material. They'll start referring to their actions using the resonant words industrialization and scientific and technical progress. And they'll invent these words with the implication of intelligent development. Well, and what kind of development? Do they possess rationality? Are they developing in a rational way? Like crazy folk, they will destroy unsurpassed creations and call their own barbaric actions progress. They are ill. A virus has taken up residence in their minds, and the epidemic will smite all of mankind. This virus is more terrible than the complete annihilation of everything on the earth. It threatens the entire universe. It is called, have you already guessed what the word I'm going to utter is now? More than once you've beseeched me not to repeat it, and have turned away from me and hurried to walk off away from me, but now you will not turn away. You will not walk off. What will strike this whole human civilization is anti-rationality. Struck by this anti-rationality, mankind will enter into the virus's dimension. It will begin performing deeds unsurpassed in their idiocy and villainy, cloaking them in words progress, advanced, moral, lovely, rational, and spiritual when they speak to each other. Now that's some kind of development, right? I can't get by without a visual here. No, take a look. The dark-haired youth traced a square in the air with his hand, and a hologram immediately appeared inside it. The hologram showed a 12-story building being built. 2 cranes were raising building materials up to the already complete stories. People in orange hard hats and blue coveralls were busy doing the finishing work on the dwellings. Could be seen through the window openings. The dark-haired youth commented, "This incomprehensible thing here, with a great number of cells, they're going to call that a home. Anti-rationality is turning people into anti-people. They have distorted the concept and the meaning behind the words, my home. They have replaced the home, a living space formed by a person's thought and reflecting his thought capacity, with an artificial stone cell. They've called it a home as some kind of travesty of rationality. The universe is not in need of their limited thought. It is becoming a breeding ground for anti-rationality and develops and strengthens its might. And this breeding ground is growing larger and larger." The hologram stretched out from horizon to horizon, showing the building of a multitude of little boxes with artificial stone cells. Some of them were collapsing, but the people in the orange hats were erecting new, even taller stone structures with a multitude of cells in their place. Dark-haired continued, To gain the right to live in these cells, they will have to perform deeds that aren't proper for any rational being. Man, the children of God, goddesses, take a look, my pale-faced brother. Take a look at these deeds. The dark-haired youth waved his hand once more, and a square with a hologram appeared once again. This time it showed a huge grocery store. A great many people were gathering all manner of items to purchase, placing them in metal baskets and walking up to the cash registers, arranged in a row, to pay for the goods that they had chosen. These are the beings from the stone cells. Every day they engage in various deeds that are worthless in terms of rationality, and they call their deeds work. For their work, they receive slips of paper that they call money. Here you see them exchanging the money that they have received for food. In the beginning, God created everything so that all a rational person had to do was stretch out his hand and take the divine creation that was to his liking and enjoy consuming it, thereby increasing the energy inside him and satisfying his body. But these beings have altered their way of life so much that there is none of God's food left around them. The food they acquire in exchange for the slips of paper does not possess divine energy. The beings who have created this way of life cannot be rational. Their way of life is the result of anti-rationality. The picture in the square changed, and now it was showing a close-up of a female cashier. One after another, people would come up to her cash register and lay out this or that kind of packages, boxes, cans, and bottles on a little table in front of the woman. Smiling, the woman would say, "Hello," to each of them. She'd take the packages, pass them over some kind of little pane of glass, after which numerals representing the product's price would light up on the cash register. The cashier would take some money from the person and say to him, smiling again, "Thank you for the purchase. Please come visit us again." And now there was a close-up in the square, showing the woman's face at the moment when she turned away from the people who were standing in line and bent down to the floor to pick up a bag that had fallen. She turned away from the people standing before her for only a few seconds, and some kind of sad and doomed expression appeared on her face. Her eyelids began to close a bit, betraying an incredible weariness. The woman picked up the bag with one hand and pressed the other to her side, wincing in pain. All of this lasted just a very short time. When she turned back to the people, there was a smile on her face once more. And once more she said to each one, "Hello. Thank you for your purchase. Come visit us again." The dark-haired youth commented, "You see, my brother, before you is a being you call a goddess. She sits behind a register made up of a multitude of little screws and circuits, and she herself is less perfected than those little screws. The register has no soul and no rationality. It just acts in accord with its prescribed program. Now this being sits behind it 12 hours a day, tapping away at its keys and saying thank you to every person. What is this being thanking each person who comes up for? For nothing. It is simply a robot. It should have rationality, but it sits and taps away at the keys of some register for 12 hours at a time. It will do that for half of its life, so that it can finally end up in a stone cell. Rationality would not have allowed something like that to take place. So that means that the anti-rationality virus is at work in her, and that this woman is not a person, but an anti-person, and that she is located in the dimension of anti-rationality. Her internal organs have been petrified. She does not receive normal food, and the blood in her veins is solidifying and stagnating because she has to sit for 12 hours at a time. She looks older than her years. Look. This is the way she should look at her age, if she were in the dimension of rationality, if she were a person. I'll show her in the natural dimensions at the same time. Look. A new hologram in the square showed a slender, blonde beauty running along the side of a brook toward a naked little boy, her son. The beauty ran up to him, scooped him up in her arms, and spun around, bursting into happy laughter. The two women, living in different dimensions, bore little resemblance to each other. The supermarket cashier sitting at the register appeared in the square once more. This is just one little isolated instance, Dark-Haired said. Would you say it's totally uncharacteristic of all mankind? Take a look. Next, he spread his arms out, and the picture in the square spread out from horizon to horizon, and a picture appeared. Hundreds of thousands of people were sitting behind various registers in tightly packed rows, tapping away at the keys. They were varied, these people. Very young girls and elderly women. And there were some men, too. Then a picture appeared in space. Hundreds of thousands of hands were tapping away incessantly at the register's keys. In the corner of the boundless screen, the sun appeared. And then the moon replaced it. And the sun appeared again, replacing a half moon. The daytime and nighttime luminaries measured off the days and months and years like a clock. But the people who had filled the entire space from horizon to horizon kept on tapping away at the keys of their registers, repeating as if they were robots. Hello, thank you for your purchase. Come visit us again. Look, my brother. Take a look. Now it will get even more interesting. Take a look at mankind's future. A hologram appeared in space, showing a close-up of a person running with a sword in his hands, his face distorted by rage. It was replaced by a picture of a person lying on the ground in the mud, spraying machine gun fire. Then 3 people appeared who were shooting a cannon, and the entire space suddenly filled up with a multitude of people. They were shown as very tiny, so that more of them would fit into the space. With swords, pitchforks, scythes, machine guns, and cannons, the people were cutting each other down and shooting at each other. They were strangling each other with their hands, kicking them with their feet. From up above, flying machines were dropping objects down onto the ground that was teeming with a mass of people. Upon reaching the ground, the objects would explode, sending up clumps of mud and the remains of human bodies. Did rational beings create this mess, my brother? And they're anti-rational because they've taken it into their heads to justify this. They'll call this mess war. They'll give various decorations to those who excel in this slaughter, and the ones who receive the medals will proudly wear them on their chest. They'll learn to pass laws that justify this slaughter that will go on for centuries without ceasing. Dark-Haired waved his hands once more, and a hologram appeared in the space once more, divided into a great many squares. Each square showed the interior of various halls where people were sitting and listening to people speaking from rostrums. They'll all have different names for this: Congress, Parliament, Duma, or a house, but they're all essentially the same thing. Do you see the people sitting there, my brother? You can still see, so take a look. The people sitting before you are writing laws for various peoples, and, if you lump them all together, for all of mankind. They've been writing them for millennia, but there are no perfected laws, nor can there be. Do you get that? Dark-Haired roared with laughter. His spiteful laughter filled the valley, and its echo bounced off the ridge of the mountain. He stopped laughing and turning to the pictures of the people sitting in them, shouted as if they could hear and understand him. You will never be able to write perfected laws because you don't know the most important thing. You don't know the life's purpose of each separate man and of mankind as a whole. This life's purpose, the universal life's purpose, has been expressed in just 4 words. It is the foundation of all laws. It, and only it, can string all of the earth's laws onto itself, like beads onto a thread, or repulse them. But you don't know what it is. You have forgotten it. Do you get it, my brother? They have forgotten the most important thing, and now they are in the dimension of anti-rationality. They have forgotten that their life's purpose has been laid out in 4 simple words. What are those words? Do you want me to utter them? You do, of course you do, very much. You're always uttering them in hope that they will hear you and understand. You utter them, but they don't hear. They don't hear because they are located in the dimension of anti-rationality. And if I utter them, if you and I utter them together, they'll hear. They'll start to take action and they'll become people. But I won't utter them. Let them deliberate until the next worldwide disaster, which will be unprecedented in scale and in strength. It will approach inexorably, and they will be powerless to use their laws to stop it from approaching. These beings know of the approaching disaster. They even know why it will occur, and they can't manage to change their way of life. They can't manage it at all. If you look at them, they still resemble people, but only on the outside. They themselves, just think about it, my brother. For centuries, they themselves have been inventing various mechanical substitutions for human capabilities. Just look what they're turning into. A hologram appeared in space. The right side showed the handsome, well-proportioned body of a youth, clad only in a loincloth, while the left side showed a girl in a short little grass skirt. Between them was a circle filled with a great many small, multicolored circles. In the circle, I'm showing the capabilities with which each man was endowed inherently. They were capable of much. Night replaced day in the hologram. The young man glanced up at the heavens and said, "Today in the heavens above me, 9,082 stars can be seen." "My love," said the girl, replying to the youth, "right now in the heavens above you, 9,083 stars can be seen. There's one that you didn't notice. It's not all that bright. I will wait for you on it. We will create a space of love on it, and it will begin to shine with a bright blue light. For the time being, our star is barely noticeable." Yes, they were capable of much, Dark Hair commented. Their initial capabilities enabled them to create everything you can imagine, and even things that you can't. But once they started inventing mechanical, non-rational capability substitutes, they'll begin losing their God-given talents. Calculating devices appeared one after another and then disappeared. And as each of the instruments appeared, several of the little circles decreased in size, some of them actually turning into black dots. They used to be capable of counting all the stars by glancing at the sky for just an instant. But they'll get to the point in their inventions where they will be calculating 2 plus 2 on calculators. They'll invent the telephone and will begin losing the ability to communicate over distance and imagine their loved ones' whereabouts. In the end, they'll begin implanting artificial devices into their bodies, Dark-Haired went on. And they themselves will turn more and more into a primitive, soulless device. It will be impossible to call them people. Their rationality is stuffed down somewhere deep inside. Anti-rationality dominates them. It is simultaneously around them and within them. Take a look, my brother. Now you'll see my final little picture. Dark-haired waved his hand, and on the screen, in the steaming air, hovering in the air, was a folded-out map of the Earth. That part of it where people lived very densely in the cities, and in each city, the stout tentacles of some monstrously large being were wending their way between the large concentrations of people, weaving in and out and shuddering. They were great in number. They encircled the cities and were also located inside them. Some kind of foul-smelling, dark-colored gas was being emitted from a great number of pores on each tentacle, but the people were not shrinking back from these terrifying emissions. They were breathing them. The people were building their homes close to the tentacles. From time to time, first in one spot and then in another, the reeking tentacles would burst, seemingly due to great pressure, and the people would rush to patch and smooth out these blowouts so as to restore the monstrous octopus's vital functions. My brother, do you see the tentacles of the monstrous octopus? Perhaps you want me to show you the body of the monster that has covered the world with its tentacles? Naturally, you don't even want to think or speak about this, but I'll tell you, right where this death-dealing body is located. I'll tell you where the tentacles are coming from. They are coming from the brains of these beings who used to be considered rational people. The monster's body is inside their brains. That's where they're all coming from. And they are proud of the death-dealing progeny. They cherish it. They call these monstrous tentacles roads and highways. Dark-haired roared with laughter. There you have it, the future of mankind. And you want to save those who are headed for the dimension of anti-rationality? You want to save them now for that fate? Dark-haired asked, turning to his brother who was holding the block of granite back, keeping it from falling. It was not just little drops of water that were seeping around the block of granite anymore. Now the water was flowing around it in thin streams. The body of the light-haired youth supporting the block of granite was petrifying ever more intensely. Even his facial muscles had hardened. He could neither speak nor blink. Only his blue eyes, still alive, were looking at the pictures of mankind's future. The dark-haired youth stuck his palm beneath a stream of the water that was running off and said, his voice full of venom, "There is precious little time left before the flood. Maybe I'd have time to say 3 or 4 more phrases to you, my brother, but I'm not going to say anything. Most likely you can't hear me anymore." The dark-haired youth spread his arms out to the sides, then bent his elbows, amusing himself with his athletic muscles, and shook his head, tossing his black locks of hair back. He spent a bit more time observing the streams of water flowing around the block of granite his brother was propping up, watching them grow stronger. Then he said, "It's time for me to be going. It's time. Now what has been preordained to come to pass shall come to pass, but it shall not come to pass." The dark-haired athlete stood up to the block of granite and, taking his place alongside his light-haired brother, propped up the block of granite with his shoulders and arms. The muscles of the athletic body tensed, the veins stood out, but the dark-haired athlete slowly straightened out his slightly bent knees and raised the granite a bit. The water stopped seeping around the edges of the block. Only a few drops were still rolling off it. The universal opposites united in one for a short time, having changed God's program. God's program, perhaps by uniting, they had opened up new possibilities for the program. After a short time, the raging, shattering torrent reached the plains, and the danger that Anasta's family valley would be flooded passed. and along with it, the danger that the people who had left the valley would perish. After a short time, oh, sorry, I already read that. The light-haired youth's petrification began to gradually pass. A smile came up to his face, and he regained his ability to speak. "Thank you, brother," Light-haired said, albeit still with difficulty. "I don't need any of your thank yous. This disaster that was predestined for people, it's past. Now they'll go even further along in their absurd worldview. They'll stubbornly construct the anti-world. There will be more of them, and there will be a new disaster on an even bigger scale." "There won't be one, brother. Maybe it'll happen just an instant before any disaster happens. But the soul particles, the feelings, and the knowledge in that little girl, Anasta, that she dissolved in space, will awaken within people's hearts. A great many women and men will stop the unprecedented disaster with their thoughts. And people living in the dimension of anti-rationality will suddenly see the light. They'll begin to build a new world on the earth, never before seen by anybody. They, the ones who have simultaneously experienced both anti-rationality and rationality, will unite what is opposite within themselves in harmony. And they will bring to life the divine impulse of his dream in matter and in spirit. Not simply will they bring it to life, to it they will add to their dream's perfection. They will add their dream's perfection. Anastasia fell silent, and I was silent too, as I tried to make sense of what had been said and seen. Only after an hour or two did I ask her a question.